Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Let us now welcome Dr. Riz Gonzalez, our Chairman of the Department of Pediatrics in QualiMed Santa Rosa, to give us the opening remarks.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, dear friends, especially to our parents, the best healthcare partner we can have. Especially also to the titos, titas, and to the grandparents who are always joining whenever we are having your well baby checkup. This pandemic has kept our kids locked down at home for more than a year. But wait, there is more to COVID, and we should be aware of this. Are the vaccine preventable diseases? Imagine a world without vaccine. BCG, TB in all forms, you can see that in our children. Hepatitis B is prevalent among Asians. Diphtheria, tetanus, polio can kill or definitely debilitate your child. Serious ear infections and meningitis are scary as well. Pneumonia is our top killer across all ages, and we have that vaccine for all our children. Measles, the most infectious virus, can truly make your child undernourished and makes his immunity down and other diseases set in after. Remember, when we protect our kids, they also protect us and create this herd immunity. And if this pandemic made you miss a dose, there is always time to catch up. Dear parents, dear our parents webinar hopes to educate and engage you to keep our kids grow up with adequate protection. Our pediatricians here in QualiMed are reachable. You can throw in your questions via the chat box or raise your hand at the end of the lecture to actively participate. So let's start this rolling by calling again my colleague to moderate today's session, Dr. Jamie Galam.
Thank you, Dr. Riz. So now let's introduce our speaker for today. So, ang ating pong specialista ngayon ay isang medical specialist 3 at assistant chair of the Quality Assurance Committee of the Medical Department at Research Institute of Tropical Medicine or RITM. Siya rin po ay isang scholar sa De La Salle University kung saan niya nakumpleto ang double majors sa Bachelor of Science major in Biology and Bachelor of Secondary Education major in General Science as a cum laude. Siya rin po ay naging full scholar sa St. Luke's College of Medicine William H. Quasha Memorial at nakapagtapos ng training sa pediatrics sa St. Luke's Medical Center in Quezon City. Siya po ay nakapagdalubhasa pa ulit sa Pediatric Infectious Disease sa Philippine Children's Medical Center. Siya po ngayon ay isang diplomate ng Philippine Pediatric Society at Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines. Ang kanyang mga pagsasaliksik habang siya ay nasa training ay nagtamo ng maraming awards. Siya ngayon ay isang aktibong pediatric infectious disease consultant sa iba't ibang hospital sa Muntinlupa, Laguna at Batangas. So without further ado, I introduce Dr. Mark Joseph S. Castellano.
Hello po sa lahat. Magandang gabi and thank you for attending this lecture. So without further ado, I'm going to start the lecture. So can you see my screen? Nakikita po ba yung screen?
Yes, Mark.
Okay po. So again, good evening. I am Dr. Mark Joseph Castellano. And tonight we are going to discuss the basics of vaccination, especially among our parents. So the title of this lecture is a little pain for a lot of gain. So mamaya, maiintindihan natin kung bakit siya ganyan, no? Little pain for a lot of gain. So to start, every parent wants the best for his or her child. So lahat naman ng magulang, yun ang gusto, no? And one of the best things that we can give to our children is vaccination. So vaccination is the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce immunity to a specific disease. So ang ibig sabihin nito, ang vaccination ay pagbibigay ng bakuna sa isang tao, bata man o matanda, para makapag-produce ng immunity or antibody sa iba't ibang klase ng sakit. With the exception of safe water, no other modality, not even antibiotics, has a major effect on mortality reduction except for the vaccines. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, so, yung vaccine, malaki yung kanyang effect talaga sa mga tao. And pangalawa siya sa pagkakaroon natin ng isang malinis na tubig. So how vaccines strengthen your baby's immune system? So your child is exposed to thousands of germs every day in the environment. So nangyayari ito kapag kumakain siya through the air and the things he puts in his mouth. So mapapansin natin yung mga bata, di ba, kung saan humahawak and then sinusubo sa bibig. So babies are also born with immune system that can fight most germs. But there are some diseases na serious and deadly that they can't handle. So, with this, we need vaccines to strengthen our baby's immune system. And vaccines uses very small amount of antigen. So, yung mga binabakuna natin sa mga bata, konti lang yon. And these vaccines help our child's immune system to recognize and learn and fight the serious diseases. Okay, so what are the importance of immunization o yung vaccination natin? They keep our child healthy, no? Yung mga anak natin, yung mga bata, it strengthens the immune system to fight off the vaccine-preventable diseases. And bago po dumating yung mga bakuna natin, no? In 1952, polio paralyzed more than 21,000 people. And before 1985, the Haemophilus influenzae type B has caused serious infection in 20,000 children worldwide. And then, in 1964 to 1965, nagkaroon ng epidemya. And yung epidemya na ito, yung German measles, or what we call as rubella, there were 12.5 million cases reported at that time. And before vaccines, infectious diseases threatened the health and lives of tens of thousands of children and adults each year. Furthermore, during the 6 years of 1940 to 1945, mahigit po sa 1,000,000 na kaso ng pertussis or tinatawag nating whooping cough ang nai-report, and usually ang kanilang average that particular year was 175,000 annually. In the 1920s, there were 100 to 200,000 cases of diphtheria, and 13,000 to 15,000 of these were reported each year. Mamaya po, i-discuss natin isa-isa yung mga sakit na ito. So as of the current time, there are 29 diseases that are currently preventable through vaccination. So we have cholera, COVID-19, dengue fever, diphtheria, Ebola virus, hepatitis, influenza, malaria, measles, and so on. Okay, so another benefit of immunization or the vaccination is that it promotes herd immunity. Basahin natin, no? If enough people are vaccinated against a disease, it has trouble spreading. This protects people who are not vaccinated because they are too young or have an allergy or other underlying medical condition. So, ang ibig sabihin po ng herd immunity is that kung mababakunahan ang majority ng mga tao, mababakunahan ang majority ng mga bata, so, in a way, it promotes indirect protection. Kasi, yung ibang tao kasi na hindi pwedeng mabakunahan dahil sobra yung allergy, or nabubuntis, or sobrang tanda, or immunocompromised, yung may mga problema sa immune system, at hindi sila mabakunahan, in a way, yung mga taong nagpabakuna, they develop or they promote the herd immunity. So, para silang shield doon sa mga taong hindi pwedeng bakunahan. So, in a way, vaccination will protect yourself at in the same time will protect those people who cannot be vaccinated. So, looking at this picture, makikita natin dito na yung mga blue, yun po yung mga nabakunahan, and then yung mga pula, sila po yung hindi nabakunahan. Ngayon, kung meron pong disease or sakit na pupunta sa isang komunidad, sa isang community, no? So, kung madami po ang bakunado, so itong mga bakunado, hindi sila magkakaroon ng sakit. At the same time, mapaprotektahan nila indirectly itong mga taong hindi na sakit. So, this is just another figure to emphasize the importance of your herd immunity. So, ang tanong dito, ilang porsyento ng population ang usually kailangan mapakunahan para makapagbigay ng herd immunity? Depende po kada sakit. So, approximately, they may range from 70% to 90%. So, let us now go to the value of vaccination. So, it can control diseases, it can eradicate or eliminate diseases. So, ang pinagkaiba nito, eradication sa isang area lang, no? So, kung sa Pilipinas, na-eradicate natin ang COVID-19, so local area. When we say elimination, it is a complete and permanent removal of the virus, bacteria, or any pathogen worldwide. An example of this would be yung smallpox natin, wherein because of the vaccination process, na-eliminate natin siya sa buong mundo. So, it can control mortality, pagkamatay, morbidity, mga sakit. It can mitigate disease severity, so yung seriousness ng isang sakit, mapabawasan. It can prevent infection, so the vaccination can prevent infection. It can protect the unvaccinated, as what we call the herd immunity. And syempre, pag hindi ka nagkakasakit, mas marami kang savings, mas malalaan mo ang pera sa ibang bagay. It can promote economic growth, and it can give other benefits like safe travel and mobility. Kasi di ba pag nag-travel tayo, yung ibang lugar, may mga sakit doon na hindi usually nakikita doon sa ating mga bahay. So, kapag tayo ay bakunado, it can give us safe travel and mobility. So, this is the figure po of the latest immunization schedule of 2021. This is from the Philippine Pediatric Society as well as from the Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines. So, ito po yung ating schedule. So, we now go to the specific childhood vaccines. So, we have here Karen Davila and a 5-year-old male na nag-present ng weight loss. So, pagbawas ng timbang, may ubo na matagal, and then naglalagnat, palaging nagpapawis, and na-expose po itong batang ito sa isang tao na may matagal na ubo. So, ang most likely na diagnosis natin for this particular patient would be tuberculosis. And tuberculosis is one of those diseases that can be prevented by giving a BCG vaccine. Actually, hindi naman yung lahat ng TB na prevent ng BCG. Ang nape-prevent ng BCG are those severe forms of tuberculosis like your TB meningitis, TB carditis, yung sa puso, and then TB of the bone. So yung mga severe types ng tuberculosis na pe-prevent ng BCG. However, in a way, meron din some protection against the pulmonary tuberculosis, yung common na nakikita natin sa mga bata o matatanda. And then, binibigay po ang BCG pagkapanganak and preferably within 2 months of life kung hindi siya nabigay pagkapanganak. And BCG vaccine is given to those babies who are likely to come into contact with someone with tuberculosis. Sa Pilipinas kasi, kahit saan pwedeng magkaroon ng kaso ng tuberculosis. So, pumunta kasi sa kanto, sa kabilang bahay, yan. May posibilidad po na mayroong may tuberculosis. Kaya po, yung ating program po sa Pilipinas, pagkapanganak, binibigyan na natin ng BCG vaccine. So, next, we have here a 6-year-old male na nagko-complain ng abdominal pain, naninilaw ang mata, naninilaw ang balat, and then nagsusuka. So, mother is a healthcare worker with known trick exposure. So, ito yung mga sintomas niya, no? So, sakit ang tiyan, naninilaw ang mata, nagsusuka, tapos may weight loss din at makati yung kanyang lalat. So, this particular child has hepatitis B. And hepatitis B can cause liver damage and cancer in the long run. Mothers can unknowingly pass the disease to their babies at birth. So, pwede kasi na yung magulang, yung mommy, may hepatitis B, pwede niya po may pasa yung sa kanyang anak. Doon sa case natin, yung nanay is a healthcare worker na na-prick or natusok ng needle several years ago, and then hindi niya alam may hepatitis B siya, na ipasa niya ngayon sa kanyang anak. 9 out of 10 infants who get hepatitis B from their mothers will develop long-term infection. So ito yung iniiwasan natin. That is why it is important to give your hepatitis B vaccine. And it is usually given at birth within 24 hours of life, preferably at 1 month and 6 months of age. However, yung hepatitis B natin, usually after birth, binibigay siya in combination with other vaccines. Ito yung mga 5-in-1, 6-in-1, yun po yung mga combination. Kasi before, mga 1990s or mga 90 to early 2000, tatlo pa yung bakuna, hiwa-hiwalay. DPT, Hep B, tapos meron pang Hib. Sa ngayon kasi mas madali na. Since sa isang tusok mo pa lang, sa isang bakuna, madaming sakit na ang pwede mong ma-prevent. Okay, so we now go to our next picture. We have a 7-year-old female with fever, sore throat, ayaw kumain, no? So, hindi makakain, tapos nahihirapang huminga. And then, pagtingin sa bibig, meron pong grayish membrane sa likod ng lalamunan. Tapos, ang laki ng leg niya. Ito po tinatawag natin na bull neck. So, itong batang ito ay mayroong diphtheria. So, diphtheria is a serious disease that causes a thick coating in the back of the throat or nose. And dahil doon sa makapal na covering na yon, it makes the child difficult to swallow or breathe. Diphtheria can be deadly, especially for children younger than 5 years old, because the immune system is not yet mature to develop the antibodies needed to prevent this disease. So, katulad po ng Hep B, yung diphtheria, binibigay siya in combination with other diseases. And yung schedule niya, usually, 6, 10, 14 weeks. And then, ang booster mo, 1-year-old and 4-year-old. So, usually kasama siya sa 6-in-1 or 5-in-1. Now, we have here a 7-year-old male. Nagsaspasm yung muscle, hindi makakain, hindi makalunok, tapos sobrang nagalagnat. Kung makikita ninyo yung kanyang kamay, di ba? Sobrang nagsistiff. Itong batang ito ay mayroong tetanus. And tetanus is a serious disease that can cause breathing problems, muscle spasms, and paralysis. So, isa sa mga sintomas niya yung lockjaw, yung hindi mabukas yung bibig, kasi nga, na-tetanus na yung bata. Okay? Tetanus usually comes from cuts or punctured wounds. So, yung mga napako. So, minsan kasi, di ba, naglalaro yung mga bata, hindi mo maiiwasan, nasasabit yung balat sa mga matulis na bagay, sa lupa. So, it is really important that we give them the tetanus vaccine. And along with Hep B, along with your diphtheria, it can be given in combination with other vaccines. So, here is a baby po, no, na meron siyang severe headache, may sore throat, may stiff neck din, and then yung mata niya meron pong pamamaga at namumula. So, this is a case of cellulitis. Nagkaroon siya ng soft tissue infection sa mata na kumalat sa utak. So, itong batang ito, meron din rin pong meningitis. And ano ang cause? Yung organism na nagkukos nito ay Haemophilus influenzae type B. And the Hib disease, shortcut for Haemophilus influenza type B, often affects babies and children under 5 years old. And it is a serious disease caused by the bacteria that can lead to pneumonia, meningitis, and severe throat infection. So yung case natin kanina. Again, along with your Hep B, tetanus, and diphtheria, pwede siyang ibigay in combination with other vaccines. So, nandun siya usually sa 6-in-1. Now, ito. So, alam nyo rin itong case na to, no? So, a 12-year-old male na hindi makalakad, deformed yung paa, tapos may weakness, hindi na bakunahan nung maliit siya. So, this adolescent has polio. So, maraming types ng polio, but this is the well-known type of polio, no? Yung paralytic polio. And Polio is a crippling virus that can invade the brain and the spinal cord, and it is paralyzing or even killing children. And the polio still exists in the world, and it often leads to sick children. So, kung natatandaan po ninyo, last year, no, before magkaroon ng COVID pandemic, nagkaroon tayo ng polio outbreak wherein for so long, we haven't detected polio cases in the Philippines. Pero last year, nagkaroon tayo ng several cases ng polio because the vaccination rate has gone down because of the fear of the vaccination from previous issues. Di ba? Yung infection, takot na yung mga tao magpa-bakuna. So, kasama din yung polio doon na naapektuhan. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng outbreak ng polio. So, it is usually given at 6, 10, 14 weeks. Booster again at 1 to 4-year-old. Meron dalawang klase, no? May IPV at may OPV. Yung IPV is what we call as inactivated polio vaccine. Yung OPV naman ay oral polio vaccine. Yung binibigay sa mga health center, ang tawag po doon ay oral polio vaccine kasi pinapatak. And then, yung IPV, ito usually mga kasama sa mga 6-in-1 natin. So, minsan, pagtatanong, Dok, nabakunahan ako ng 6-in-1, may polio vaccine na ako. Tapos, may nag-iikot sa barangay namin na merong pinapatak. Tatanggapin ko ba? Wala bang overdose? So, you just accept the polio vaccine, yung oral. Kasi magkaiba sila ng protection, no? The IPV is more of the systemic, more of sa blood, no? So, yun. Pero yung sa OPV kasi natin, more of the gut, sa tiyan. So, although both of them prevents and protects you from polio, taking them both at the same time will give or will boost your immune response. So, and to quote, no, so wala po tayong vaccine overdose. Kasi yung vaccines, they are relatively safe, and kahit marami kang ibigay na polio vaccine, yung oral, no? So, usually itatain mo lang naman yung vaccine. So, hindi talaga siya magpo-cause ng significant harm. So, that particular statement, yung there's no vaccine overdose, can somehow give us na yung assurance na hindi tayo mapapahama kahit doble or maulit man yung mga bakuna na ibibigay sa atin. Moving on. We have here a 9 months old. Mayroon siyang ear infection, no? So, otitis media. Tapos, na-intubate, nagkaroon ng meningitis, tapos natubo. So, yung intubation means natubo. So, this particular baby, nagkaroon po siya ng pneumococcal disease. And pneumococcal disease can be prevented by giving your pneumococcal vaccine, yung mga PCV natin. And pneumococcal disease is caused by a bacteria that can result in serious infection of the ears, the nose, and can lead to meningitis. Pwede rin pong pneumonia. And majority of the middle ear infection, ang cause po nun is the pneumococcal disease. Okay? So, yung schedule niya, usually 6, 10, 14 weeks, and booster at 1-year-old. So, yung pneumococcal disease natin, madaming klase ng pneumococcal disease. And itanong po ninyo sa mga pediatrician ninyo kung ano po yung schedule or ano yung best time to get the PCV or the PPSV or pneumococcal vaccines natin. So here, we have a 3 months old na nagda-diarrhea, nagsusuka, or appetite. So titignan nyo yung picture, tinan nyo, nung kinurot yung balat. Parang manipis na masyado, no? So, dry skin, hindi umiihi, ayaw kumain, sobrang dehydrated. So, this is a case of your acute gastroenteritis caused by your rotavirus. And your rotavirus can be prevented by your rotavirus vaccines, di ba? So, it is a contagious disease and it is the most common cause of diarrhea in children. So, kung nagtataya ang isang bata, first mo iisipin would be a viral cause. And most common viral cause of your diarrhea would be rotavirus. And presentation niya, diarrhea and vomiting. And yung most fearsome natin na ayaw would be your dehydration. So the schedule varies by type. No? So we have 2 types of rotavirus vaccine, yung RV1 or RV5. So pareho lang naman usually yung defense na binibigay nitong dalawang to. And meron po kasi siyang limit. Pag hindi mo na ibigay yung rotavirus, yung first dose in 14 weeks and 6 days, you cannot give it anymore. Kasi study shows that pag binigay mo siya beyond the recommended time, pwedeng magkaroon ng ibang problem yung mga bata. So you should always check with your pediatrician. So we have here a 4-year-old na nag-fever, nag-chills, may sipon, masakit ang kalamnan, masakit ang mga kusukusuan. So this is a classic presentation of your flu. And flu is a respiratory disease that affects the nasal passages, the throat, and the lungs. Ang pinaka closest na sakit na nagre-resemble sa flu would be your COVID-19. So sometimes you cannot differentiate the two because their presentation, their signs and symptoms are usually overlapping. And the flu causes 20,000 children to be hospitalized each year. Okay? So, binibigay usually ang flu vaccine starting 6 months old. However, yung first dose ng flu vaccine natin, from 6 months to 8 years old, 2 dose po yun. So, wag magtaka kayo, sabihan kayo ng pediatrician nyo, first dose ng flu vaccine. So, dapat po 2, 1 month apart. That is your first dose of flu vaccine. And more than 9 years old, isa na lang ibibigay ng flu vaccine. At dapat po, ang flu vaccine ay binibigay taon-taon. Hindi pwedeng isang beses nyo lang ibibigay. So, may question dito eh. If vaccines make me immune, why do I have to get flu shot every year? So, the question naman is valid. So, evolution is a constant arms race. So, lahat ng bagay nag-evolve. And as our body becomes immune to invaders, yung invaders din, they try to adapt and get around your immunity. So, kung i-mention natin sa COVID, di ba, nagkakaroon ng mga mutations, nagkakaroon ng variants. And sometimes, yung mga vaccines na nade-develop natin, hindi sila nag-e-effect doon sa mga mutations na yun. That's why we need to upgrade also our arsenal. We need to upgrade our protection, our vaccine, so that we can keep up with these mutations, these evolutions that these organisms make. No? So each year, scientists have to try to predict which flu strain will be the big one again to vaccinate against. Kasi madaming types ng flu, madaming variants, madaming species ng flu virus. So parang taon-taon, nagmi-meeting yung mga experts, tapos nagpe-predict sila kung ano yung mga flu na common. So yun po yung ginagawa natin ng vaccine. Kaya every year, iba-iba yung mga bakuna ng flu, hindi sila pare-pareho. Okay, so it is important that every year, children, adolescent, and adults will get your flu vaccine. So we have here a 3-year-old male with 3 days low-grade fever, 3 araw na naglalagnat. Malaki yung mga kulani, tapos may mga rashes. Pero, tandaan mo, hindi mo pala siya nabigyan ng MMR. So, anong sakit ito? Ito po ay rubella or German measles. Rubella, usually, self-limiting sila sa mga bata. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi mo bigyan ng gamot, okay lang, nawawala, nag-improve. However, sa mga buntis, so it's important that pregnant women have immune defense against rubella. Kasi pag wala, yung rubella, pag na-affect mo yung buntis, pwedeng magkaroon ng miscarriage, pwedeng magkaroon ng birth defects, and then, pwedeng magkaroon ng pagkamatay doon sa bata. So, the rubella vaccine, so doon sa MMR, ang tawag kasi sa MMR ay measles, mumps, and rubella. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng MMR. And the MMR is usually given at 1-year-old, booster natin at 4-year-old, and it may be given in combination with other vaccines like your MR, measles and rubella, MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, and then MMRV is measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella. So, in relation to our previous case, we have here a 3-year-old na, we have here, a 3-year-old, pero sobrang rashes niya, kita nyo? So, buong katawan. Tapos, meron itong ubo, may sipon, namumula ang mata. Sorry. So, ito rashes nito ay, pwedeng ubo, sipon. Tapos, kung makikita ninyo yung kanyang mga, yung mga rashes niya, parang mga gutlig-gutlig. So, this is a case of varicella or chickenpox, yung tinatawag nating bulutong. So, itong mga patients na to, very prominent yung rashes nila. Diba? Makikita natin, may tubig sa loob. So, yun yung bulutong. And chickenpox usually can cause serious diseases in infants. And 9 out of 10 of children who get 2 doses of the vaccine will be completely protected from the chickenpox. So, yung varicella vaccine na tinatawag natin. So, mataas masyado yung kanyang protective value na kapag nakakuha ka ng 2 vaccine, almost all the time protected ka na from the duluto. Okay, so again, it is given at 1 year old. Booster niya 4 year old. So para siyang MMR. So binibigay siya at 1 year old and booster at 4 year old, and then it may be given in combination with other vaccines like your MMRV. So ito naman, 7-year-old, kumain ng fishball, tapos after kumain ng fishball, street food, nagkaroon ng paninilaw ng balat, and after 3 days, nag-diarrhea, nawala ng ganang kumain, at sumakit siya. So, itong batang to, merong hepatitis A. And hepatitis A is a liver disease. Usually, acute yung onset ng kanyang symptoms. Ibig sabihin ng acute, mabilisan, no? So, after, meron kang identified na exposure. Tapos, after several days, yun na, nagdilaw na yung mata, nagkaroon na ng pagtatae, pagsusuka, lagnat, and pati yung balat na nilaw. And it is usually obtained or transmitted to objects or food na na-contaminate ng dumi ng tao. Kasi yung hepatitis A usually, tinatae mo yung virus. So, ibig sabihin, pag nakakuha ka ng hepatitis A, yung food or drink na inain o ininom mo ay infected ng galing sa dumi ng tao. Okay? And usually, we give vaccines for hepatitis A at 1 year old, yung first dose, and then second dose mo after 6 months from the first dose. Pero ngayon kasi may bagong hepatitis A vaccine, binibigay siya subcutaneous, ibig sabihin sa taba, no? Sa taba siya binibigay. Yung isa kasi sa laman, sa muscle. Ito kasi sa taba, between the skin and the muscle. Single dose lang ito, and it is usually given more than 18 months old. So, ito na tayo, no? So, nagkaroon na tayo, itong sakit na to, nagkaroon tayo ng outbreak nito dati. This is a 1-year-old female with high-grade fever, tapos may ubo, may sipon, nagkaroon ng pamumula ng kanyang mata, nagkaroon ng rashes, irritable, hirap huminga, eventually na-admit. Tapos nung na-admit, nagkita na meron siyang pneumonia. So itong batang ito ay mayroong DIPHTHERIA, or what we call as measles or rubella. So ito, nagkaroon din tayo ng outbreak ito dati kung matatandaan niyo po. No? So again, because of the vaccine scare before, pati yung vaccine coverage ng measles natin, naapektuhan po. So, measles can be dangerous. It is more than just a little rash. And ito yung mga pwede niyang maging sakit. Pneumonia, brain damage, pagkabingi, at pagkamatay. It is highly contagious. Yung effect niya sa ibang tao, usually more than 90%, no? So, if you are not protected, if you don't have the vaccine against measles, most often than not, kapag na-expose ka sa may taong may tigtas, pati ikaw magkakaroon ng tigtas. Hindi lang siya applicable sa mga bata, pati sa mga adolescent o mga matatanda, applicable siya. The measles vaccine usually can be given at 9 months old. However, kung may outbreak or meron pong mga pagkalat like before, it can be given as early as 6 months old. Pero yung MMR natin kasi ngayon, binibigay siya minimum of 1 year old and booster natin at 4 years old. Dati meron pong measles vaccine yung nag-iisa lang. However, because wala na masyadong nag-produce nun, we are just using the MMR vaccine to vaccinate our children for measles. Ito. This is a 3-year-old male na sobrang may mataas na lagnat, hirap sa paghinga, weak looking, tapos kita niyo yung mga rashes niya, parang may mga pasa, no? Parang nagdudugo. Ito po ay case ng meningococcemia. So, meron po akong mga pasyente na namatay because of meningococcemia. Siguro nakatatlo na po ako. Kasi minsan kapag kahit maaga mo silang madala sa ER, kung kumalat na yung infection sa dugo, kahit anong bigay mo ng antibiotic, pwede po silang mamatay. And the vaccine for your meningococcemia usually binibigay as early as 9 months old. And it is given in 2 doses, 3 months apart. Pag more than 2 years old na yung anak ninyo, isang dose na lang ng vaccine for meningococcemia. So it can kill within hours. This is the most important thing to remember. It can kill within hours. So kahit mabilis mo na idala sa ospital, mabilis mo nabigyan ng gamot, pwede pa rin pong hindi mag-survive ang isang batang may meningococcemia. So ito, namaga yung yung jaw niya, tapos may lagnat, kumain, So, mumps, o yung peke na tinatawag natin. So, mumps can be dangerous because it can cause deafness, pagkabingi, meningitis, and encephalitis. And yung mumps vaccine natin usually in combination siya with MMR, diba? Measles, mumps, and rubella. So, ito, bata. No? So, hirap kumain, hirap huminga, tapos ubo ng ubo, yung ubo niya talagang parang matanda. And this is a case of your pertussis or whooping cough. And whooping cough can be dangerous because it can cause convulsion, pneumonia, brain damage, at also pagkamatay. Yung pertussis natin na vaccine, it is given in combination with your 6-in-1. So, kaya nga, yun, palagi kong in-emphasize na before, pahirapan kasi isa-isa yung mga bakuna, madaming tusok. Sa ngayon kasi, one injection, one vaccine can give you as much as 6 protection from 6 different diseases. So this is an article, Dad loses child to suspected encephalitis and urges parents to vaccinate in 2017. So yung anak niya namatay ng Japanese encephalitis. Yung Japanese encephalitis, ang nag-cause niyan would be yung isang Japanese encephalitis virus na tinatransmit ng isang lamok. So pareho siya ng dengue, pareho siya ng malaria. Lamok po ang nag-spread ng ganitong sakit. And wala pong gamot kasi ang Japanese encephalitis, no? Walang antiviral. So the best that we can do is to vaccinate. We protect ourselves from the mosquito bites. So masot naman, mahahaba para ma-protect tayo. And kung sa vaccination naman, we have what we call as Japanese B vaccine. It is given as early as 9 months old. Tapos, 2 dose siya. No? So, after 1 year, usually yung earliest mo na dose. So, kung napukunahan ka ng JAP-B ng 1 year old, ang next mo na would be 2 years old. Pero pag umabot ka na ng more than 18 year old, isang dose na lang. Okay? So, what are the risks of vaccine? So, Dr. Castellano, daming sinabi sa mga bakuna. So, syempre, di ba, hindi naman lahat ng bagay 100% good. Meron pong mga risk din na kasama yung ating mga vaccines. However, the benefit-risk ratio of vaccine is one of the highest of any medical intervention. Ibig sabihin nito, yung benefit na makukuha mo sa pagbabakuna ay sobrang taas na yung risk na kasama niya, negligible na. Ibig sabihin, sobrang liit ng risk na kasama niya. But like any medical procedure, they carry some risk. Yun nga, ulitin natin, sobrang liit lang yung risk ng pagbabakuna. Usually, redness, headache, and fever. And most serious reactions are incredibly rare. When we say serious, ito po yung nakamamatay, or mga effect ng bakuna na isusugod ka sa ospital. So, yun yung most serious. They are very rare. And looking at this diagram, the life saved by giving your vaccines is so great at yung adverse effects niya, maliit lang. Okay? And we are talking of 1 in a million chance of having these serious reactions. So, ito si Mami, sabi niya, I heard that vaccines cause autism. So, do vaccine cause autism? No. So, the myth began in 1998 when the English medical journal called The Lancet, na isa pong doktor, no? So, para siyang tumawag doon sa isang newspaper. Tapos sabi niya, meron daw siyang pag-aaral, pagsusuri na yung vaccines can cause autism. And this particular doctor is Andrew Wakefield. So, he was a former gastroenterologist, and he was struck off the UK medical education. So, tinanggalan siya ng lisensya kasi nakita na yung mga researches na ginawa niya fraudulent or huwad or fake. And meron siya mga charges of misconduct na ginawa sa paggawa ng kanyang paper. And kasi yung paper niya, sabi daw yung MMR daw nag-cause ng autism. Ngayon, ano yung mga misconduct na ginawa niya? For example, he paid kids for blood samples at his son's birthday party. And meron siyang mga conflict of interest. Like, parang nagpabayad siya doon sa mga researches niya or pinagkakitaan niya yung mga researches niya, which is hindi dapat kasi conflict of interest yun. Okay? So, in the end, natanggalan siya ng lisensya because of his fraudulent acts, and he was parang discredited as a doctor. So, ito yung mga tanong ng mga parents. So, can adolescents be vaccinated? Kasi, di ba, pag sinabi mong pagbabakuna sa mga ano lang, mga maliliit na bata lang, babies, mga toddlers. So, can adolescents be vaccinated? So, ang sagot po ay opo. So, according to the PIDSP guideline for vaccination of 2021, ito po yung mga bakuna na pwede mong ibigay sa mga adolescents. So, ito yung mga tinatawag natin na catch-up immunization. Wherein, kapag hindi mo nabakunahan ng isang bata during the peak years, like 1 year old hanggang 5 years old, pwede pa rin silang bakunahan kapag sila ay malalaki na or teenagers na. Pero iba lang yung scheduling natin. So, you need to ask your pediatricians. So, kita nyo, di ba? Ang dami. Ang daming mga bakuna. May Hep B, Hep A, MMR, varicella, influenza, pwede nga pertussis din, tetanus, HPV, okay, para sa mga nagdadalaga o mga nagbibinata. So, we now go to tips for a less stressful vaccine visit. So, number 1, read up. Read up on the vaccines of your child will be receiving. No? So, magbasa-basa na po tayo para at least yung mga tanong natin, may tanong natin sa ating mga doktor. And ask your doctor for possible side effects para at least din makapag-anticipate tayo kung ano yung i-expect natin ng mga side effects. The more informed you are, the better you will feel. Next, you bring their favorite things. Kasi, distraction yan eh. No? So, if you bring their favorite things, toys, yung mga Barbie, yung mga cars, toy cars, so, distraction yun sa bata. And, you should check with your doctor before mo dalhin. Baka mamaya magdala ka doon ng ano, no? Ng mga laruan na ano, na which may be complicated or harmful more than ma-distract pa yung bata. No? So, kailangan nyo munang i-ask sa doctor nyo kung pwede bang dalhin yung mga laruan na yun. Offer a sweet drink. Liquids na matatamis may decrease pain response. So, sa mga sweet lovers, so pwede natin ito. And if your child is older than 6 months, offering a sweet beverage like juice may help soothe your child. If your baby is breastfeeding, that is a great way to help calm and relax your child. So, ibig sabihin, pag magpapabakuna, pwede pong habang nag-breastfeed si baby, pwede pong mabakunahan. Pero ingat-ingat lang, baka iba yung mabakunahan no, during the vaccination process. Be honest. So, explain sa bata na yung pinch or tusok, no? So, if your baby can understand you, your calming and reassuring voice will make the baby feel more at ease. Huwag natin sasabihin siguro na kagat ng langgam, lalo na kung hindi pa sila nakagat ng langgam kasi hindi nila yun picture out, no? So, yun. So, expect natin, ano ba yung tusok, ano ba yung pinch? And never tell scary stories or make threats about shots. Kasi minsan, yung mga pasyente, no? Behave. Mamaya, tutusukan ka ni Doc Marky. So, wag natin gagawin yun. Kasi, if we do that, parang binababa natin or parang ginagawa natin yung vaccination as a punitive procedure. So, hindi siya healthy sa vaccination process natin. Okay? Be happy and calm. Pero minsan mahirap gawin po, no? Kasi minsan yung parents pa yung agitated or kabado. A smile goes a long way between parents and children often take their parents' mood into account. So kapag kabado ang magulang, kabado din ang bata. Kung agitated ang magulang, pwedeng maging agitated din yung bata. So, they remain relaxed before, during, and especially after the shots, and let your child know everything is okay. Distract your child. Katulad ng una, mga toys, no? These can be distractions to our children. And, keep the distraction going after the vaccine is given. So, pagkatusok, huwag tayong dito mag-distract, no? So, kantahan natin yung bata, tapos, mag-joke tayo, mag-make faces, para at least, di ba, kahit tayo yung mukhang nakakatawa, makakatulong naman tayo sa mga anak natin o sa mga babies na mabawasan yung pain na na-receive nila through vaccination. Swaddle your baby. Swaddling is a great technique to calm young infants and swaddling mimics condition. So, pansinin ninyo kapag nakaswaddle yung baby or kapag niyayakap siya ng mahigpit, medyo kalmado sila. Kasi nga, it mimics yung condition doon sa sinapupunan. Big kids need support too. So, yung mga malalaking bata na for vaccination, so sabihin natin, so, inhale, exhale to blow out the pain. And then, pwede nyo rin po silang i-distract and you can even tell or read stories from a book. Pero minsan, ano na di ba, parang, ano na lang, medyo matagal itong read or tell stories from a book. Pero yun nga, the point is, we give distractions to our children. Here, after the shots comes 2. So, pwede na tayo maglagay ng, ng malamig na bimpo or material doon sa area ng bakuna. Tapos, pag may lagnat, bigyan natin ng paracetamol or sponge bath. And then, you should always contact your doctor if anything concerns you. So, how to hold your child during vaccination? So, important yung role ng parents kasi sila yung hahawak sa mga bata. And holding your child appropriately and properly during the vaccination process can prevent children from moving their arms. It can also avoid frightening the children and mas okay yung magiging vaccination process natin. So, I request for our parents here to help our pediatricians during the vaccination process. So, kapag maliit na bata, ganito po yung gagawin. No? So, yayakapin niyo yung anak niyo, yung isang kamay, nandoon sa braso niya. Tapos, yung dalawang paa, ilalagay niyo din sa loob ng ng hika para talagang firm yung pagkakahawak niyo kay baby. So, ito, iipitin niyo yung paa doon sa yung paa ni baby doon sa hika. Okay? And then, pag older children, ganun din. I-hug niyo yung bata, tapos yung paa ng bata nandoon sa loob ng mga hika. So, we now go, what is safe? So, safe, yung safe ba, ibig sabihin ba no harm from the vaccine? Or yung safe ba is no harm from the disease? So, again, no vaccine is 100% safe. Kasi nga, as we have mentioned, there are certain risks or adverse events na pwedeng mangyari sa vaccination. However, as I've mentioned also, sobrang laki ng benefits sa vaccination that it really outweighs significantly yung risk. To reiterate, there is no vaccine that is 100% safe and there is no vaccine that is 100 effective. So sabihin, di ba, nabakunahan na yan ng dalawang MMR, bakit nagka-tigdas pa din? Or nabakunahan na ng pang-pneumonia. So yung minsan, nabakunahan ng pang-pneumonia, nagka-pneumonia. Because nga, no vaccine is 100% safe. The vaccines can only give us a certain percentage of protection, and it is better to receive a vaccine with that particular protection than having no vaccine at all. So we should remind parents, i-remind po namin kayo, that to do nothing is to take a risk. Safe means being preserved from the real danger, from the danger of having the actual disease. And vaccines are safe because the danger they prevent, the diseases, far outweighs the danger, the side effects that they represent. Okay, so scenario, 4-year-old boy, nagpunta for flu vaccine. Tapos sabi, mayroon daw mild cough and colds. Di ba yan yung usually nakikita natin? Dok, meron pong ubo sipon. Paano po yung ubo? Minsan lang po. Gano'n yung sipon? Ito pa konti-konti lang daw. So, can he receive the flu vaccine? So, this table shows you the invalid contraindications of vaccination. Ibig sabihin, kapag mayroon kang mga ganito, hindi ibig sabihin noon ay pwede nang i-postpone yung vaccination mo. Okay? Ano yung mga ito? Mild illness, low-grade fever, mild diarrhea. So, invalid contraindication. So, pwede pa rin bakunahan. Naka-antibiotic, breastfeeding, premature birth. So, itong mga to, so pag meron po kayong ganito, you can still be vaccinated. Pero syempre, depende rin yun sa prerogative or kagustuhan ng inyong pediatrician. Okay? So, can this particular patient or yung 4-year-old boy natin can receive the flu vaccine? The answer is yes. Next, a 25-year-old mom has asked for advice if she can be safely vaccinated. So, gusto magpabakuna ng nanay. Kaso, nagbe-breastfeed siya. So, what will we advise, di ba? So, except for smallpox and yellow fever vaccine, the vaccines do not affect the safety of breastfeeding mothers. So, katulad kanina, di ba? So, dito, so picture natin, breastfeeding is an invalid contraindication to vaccination except for smallpox and yellow fever vaccines. And for this particular patient, we advise that kung gusto niya magpabakuna, no? So, example dito, flu vaccine, ang gusto niya ipabakuna, yes, the mother can be vaccinated. Last scenario. Sabi ng mother, my 4-year-old daughter has allergy to egg, pero gusto kong makareceive siya ng MMR vaccine. Pwede ba siyang bakunahan ng MMR? So, yung allergic reaction natin, usually, meron yung mga vaccine. And nakikita yan sa antigen, preservatives, stabilizers, so sa other components ng vaccine. And usually, kapag nag-vaccine ka, yung allergy mo, usually nakikita within 1 to 2 hours. Ngayon, yung mga bakuna na may egg protein, no? Yung may mga egg protein, measles, MMR, influenza, and some rabies vaccine, may egg protein sila. However, yung egg protein nitong mga vaccine na ito ay hindi sobrang dami na hindi siya makaka-affect kahit may egg allergy pa ang iyong anak. The only vaccine that contains a larger amount of egg protein and dapat may skin testing is the yellow fever. So, doon sa mga usual or mga bakuna na available sa mga pediatricians natin, usually, wala naman tayong yellow fever doon. So, generally, it is safe to give your vaccines even if your child has egg allergy. So, what will we advise? Yes, you can receive the MMR vaccine kahit may egg allergy. So, we now go to the last part of our lecture or discussion. So, these are the scary stories about vaccines. These are the misconceptions, the myths, yung mga paniniwala about immunization. Ang claims ng iba, natural methods of enhancing immunity are better than vaccination. However, the only natural way kasi of enhancing your immunity is magkasakit ka, di ba? Pag nagkaroon ka ng COVID-19, natural way siya na magkakaroon ka ng antibodies. Pero kasi di ba, ayaw naman natin magkaroon ng COVID-19. So that's why we receive the vaccination so that hindi tayo magkakasakit. Okay, that also applies to MMR vaccine, measles vaccine, to your pneumonia vaccine, pneumococcal. So, yun po. Tapos, giving multiple vaccines at the same time causes an overload of the immune system. So, wala, Doc, 3 yung vaccine niya today. So, hindi ba mag-overload yung immune system niya, Doc? So, actually po, our body is so intelligent that it can detect 1,096 antigens. So, ibig sabihin nun, kung may 1,096 kang bakuna, pwede mo yun ibigay sa isang tao na hindi malilito yung katawan mo o hindi ma-overload yung katawan mo kasi sobrang ganda ng development ng yung pagkakagawa ng ating immune system. So, nadidetect niya isa-isa yung mga vaccine and then nagpuproduce siya ng antibodies separately. Hindi nalilito. Okay? Walang overload na nangyayari. Next, vaccines are ineffective. So, ano naman natin ito? Debunk naman na these are not true because vaccines have saved millions of people from the effect of devastating disease. Pinakita ko naman sa inyo, di ba? Before the vaccines, yung mga polio, yung mga Hib natin, they were all prevented significantly. Lalo na yung smallpox, di ba? Okay? So, number 4. So, ang claim is that kaya bumababa kasi yung sakit kasi gandahan lang natin yung nutrition, gandahan lang natin yung hygiene. Yes, improving your nutrition, improving your hygiene can decrease your chances of having the disease. However, the diseases have decreased dramatically after giving your vaccines. So, ang gusto ditong iparating is that hindi lang dahil sa nutrition or hygiene mababa ang diseases. More often than not, more important than this is giving your child vaccines for these preventable diseases. Next, vaccines causes autism, neurologic defects, sudden infant death, eczema, asthma. So na-mention na natin earlier that these claims are false and multiple high-quality studies have failed to substantiate any links. So, may mga studies na naginawa after noong 1998. So, na-prove nila na wala talagang effect or walang link ang vaccination to this disease and disease. And vaccines weaken the immune system, and in contrast to that, yung totoo is that it actually boosts our immune system. So, vaccines, ito pa. Vaccines can be delayed, separated in spaces. So, ibig sabihin nito, pwede i-delay yung bakuna. Pwedeng pagkabigay ngayon ng isang vaccine, ibibigay mo siya after 10 years. So, pwede daw yon. Actually po, pwede naman talaga yon. However, may mga consequences. And yung consequences na yon is that kung mas maaga mo kasi mabigay yung vaccine at the recommended dose, recommended time, the earlier that you will also protect your child or the children. And sayang kasi yung opportunity to protect them kung i-delay natin yung pagbibigay ng vaccine. So, as much as possible, we try to get the vaccines at the appropriate age, appropriate interval, and appropriate time. And in summary, Immunization is important in disease prevention because it saves lives. And minsan, despite its proven benefits, healthcare providers still face some issues regarding vaccination kasi may mga vaccination hesitancy tayo. And to address this, we should educate our patients and our parents so that mabakunahan yung mga bata. So our children, these children are counting on us. Vaccine saves lives, and with that, thank you.
Well, that was a very informative lecture. Thank you, Dr. Mark. So, indeed, childhood vaccines are one of the great triumphs of modern medicine. So, I think madaming mga show ng interest talaga dito sa ating topic ngayon dahil very timely at kailangan natin talagang protektahan ng ating mga anak. So, marami tayong mga questions ngayon. Let's start sa unang question natin, Doc Mark. So, from Miss Aleli Plete, just a thought lang po, ang vaccines po ba ay walang generic katulad ng mga ibang medicines at vitamins for a lower cost po? Yung price po kasi ng vaccine ay mataas. Yes po, totoo yan. At depende sa manufacturer.
So, to answer the question, usually po yung vaccines kasi natin, ano po sila hindi kasi sila, parang iba sila sa mga medicines, no? Yung vaccines natin, they have specific manufacturers. And yung manufacturing, magkakaiba po, no? So, iba, for example, iba yung brand nito, iba yung brand nito. So, as of now kasi, there is no generic vaccines for all. Kahit sabihin natin generic yan, there is still a certain manufacturer for that particular vaccine. Eh ngayon, yung mga vaccines na ginagamit ng government, they are also brands. So actually, we cannot call them as generic vaccines. So, yun po yung answer to the question.
Thank
Yes,
you,
I know po.
Dr.
Opo. So, in addition pala, yes, I know that the vaccines are expensive. However, isipin na lang po natin, no, that in this time of pandemic, kapag na-admit po ang ating mga anak, yung inyong pong mga anak, the cost of hospitalization is really expensive, no? The cost of hospitalization is really significantly higher than the cost of the vaccine. Kasi ngayon po, kung na-admit po kayo, pwede pong mag-cost ng 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 per admission. Where in fact, kung magpabakuna kayo, yung cost ng vaccines lang ang yung gagastusin natin. So, parang isipin na lang po natin that vaccination is an investment. It is an investment to keep our child healthy and protected. Ngayon, personally yung mga patients ko, kung talagang kapos at wala, then you can always go to your health center to ask for the available vaccines there. Pero yun nga, better to go to your pediatrician, invest on the vaccine so that in the future, you will reap the effects of the vaccination for a longer period of time.
Yeah, hindi lang hospitalization, Doc Mark, di ba? The parents will be absent from their work,
Yes,
so
opo.
less sa kanila yan. Plus, ang pinaka hindi maganda, pag natamaan ng sakit yung mga anak natin, bagsak ang katawan, di ba, ng ating mga anak. So, yun tsaka yung mga long-term effect ng ditong mga sakit na to, ay, nako, grabe, di ba? Nakakatakot. Okay, for our next question, Dr. Mark, what's the update on COVID vaccine for use for children?
Okay, sige po. So, sa ngayon po kasi, so bigyan ko muna ng background, no? That COVID-19 in children, 90 to 95% of the time, they are asymptomatic. Ibig sabihin, walang sintomas or they are mild. However, may mga na-admit din tayong mga pasyente na COVID-19 confirmed na may pneumonia, in critical condition. However, more often than not, on majority of the cases, mild lang po or walang sintomas. Ngayon, ang priority kasi ngayon ng mga manufacturers or mga companies worldwide, no, pati ng WHO, is to create a vaccine that will be effective for majority sa mga tao. So, usually matatanda muna. Kasi yun yung target population as of now. Ngayon, the vaccine for children, wala pang approved and wala pang nade-develop ngayon. Kasi nga, yung mga trials na ginagamit po ngayon, yung mga studies, they are all in the adult population. Siguro in the future, in the near future, after months or years, we can come up with a vaccine po talaga that is applicable to the children. So we can infer, pwede tayong mag-deduce or infer from the adult population yung mga ginagamit nila. Kasi for example, makita tayong vaccine na effective talaga, and then after a long period of time observation, safe talaga itong vaccine na to, it really protects us, then why not try them to this population, dun sa mga bata? Kasi nga, di ba, in comparison to the adults, mas fragile, mas sensitive yung mga children. So ngayon, matatanda muna, but mag-antay lang tayo kasi in the near future, we are also going to have vaccines for our children.
Yes, we want that. So I think this next question na answer na kanina, yung what do we do if we miss the vaccine or booster shot on the prescribed time? So, Dr. Mark?
Yes po. So, kapag na-miss out po natin yung bakuna, no? Hindi naman kasi siya nagre-reset. For example, nabigyan mo ng isang 6-in-1 po ang inyong anak ng 2 months old. Ngayon, because of maraming nangyari, nagka-pandemic, nagkaroon ng issues, concerns, then, yung first dose mo ng bakuna, meron ka ng protection on sa certain na mga sakit, yung 6 na yun, no? So, DPT, MMR, DIPHTHERIA, PERTUSSIS, TETANUS, Hib, POLIO. So, meron ka ng protection, pero hindi mo pa na-maximize. So, ngayon, kapag na-miss out mo yung next dose mo, for example, you are due yung pinaka-best time mo kasi it will be after 2 months, di ba? At 4 months. Pero earlier than that, you can give it. Pag na-miss mo yung 4 months, you can still give it at 5th month, you can still give it at 6 months. So, hindi nawawala yung protection na nakuha mo doon sa bakuna na yun nung binigay mo siya ng 2 months old. Meron pa din. Yun nga lang, kapag hindi mo kasi nabigay siya on a recommended date, nami-miss out mo din yung opportunity na maprotektahan mo siya ng maaga yung inyong bata. So, yung time between the 2 months until the time na, for example, 6 months mo siya next, vulnerable yung anak niyo po doon sa mga sakit. So, pag nagbakuna ka na ngayon ng 6 months, na napapatungan yung protection mo, nag-a-add up sila. So, you have better now protection against those diseases. So, pag na-miss out, huwag mag-alala. You can still give the vaccines, but wag masyadong matagal kasi nga, the longer that you wait, the longer the child is exposed, mas hindi siya protected for a long period of time.
Thank you for that answer, Dr. Mark. So we have another question. My child is entering college. What vaccine should be updated? And what is the difference between the 6-in-1 given in health centers and in private clinics?
Okay. So, kung papasok po siya ng college, number 1, we need to have the vaccination record. Kasi hindi po lahat ng mga bata pare-pareho ng bakuna. Meron po iba na mas eager magpabakuna, so kompleto, no? Yung iba naman, chill-chill lang, so hindi masyado nagpapabakuna. So, yung pagpapakuna po kasi it's in an individualized process. So, vaccines for person A may not be parang applicable to person B kasi ito, nakakuha na to before, ito, wala before. So, kailangan ko siya individualize. So, you need to check with your pediatrician, that's number 1. You need to bring your vaccination record para alam kung anong bibigay na bakuna. And yung difference kasi ng 6-in-1 and 5-in-1 sa health center is that sa health center kasi, di ba, bibigyan ka ng 5-in-1. So, it's your diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, DPT. Bibigyan ka rin ng Hib doon kasama sa 5-in-1 and your FP. So, yung pang-anim kasi, yun yung pinapatak ng health center, which is your OPV, yung oral polio. Ngayon, yung 6-in-1 sa private naman, may kasama na kasing polio yun, which is your IPV or your inactivated polio vaccine. However, as I have mentioned in the lecture earlier, magkaiba kasi ng protection na binibigay ang IPV at OPV. So, yung OPV natin, most likely gives us protection doon sa gut, no? So, kailangan yung both vaccines na maibigay sa bata para ma-optimize yung protection against polio diseases. Okay? So, pag nag-offer sa inyo sa health center, pag may nag-ikot-ikot at gusto kayong patakan po yung anak ninyo, tanggapin niyo po yun. Because that will give additional protection for polio diseases.
Yes. Doc, paano kung nakalimutan na nila yung vaccine record na wala na? Pwede bang maulit yung mga vaccines na na-receive? Hindi nila alam yung history ng vaccine.
Okay, that is a good question po, Dr. Jamie. So, again, kung medyo narinig niyo po ako kanina, there is no vaccine overdose. So, ibig sabihin noon, kung nakalimutan na, hindi na, you can always restart the vaccination process. Kasi, kung nabigyan na siya ng vaccine before, tapos, hindi nyo alam na nabigyan pala siya, no? Add up lang kasi yung protection ng ating mga vaccines. And, there will come a point in time na masasaturate kasi yung natin, yung antibodies natin na kahit anong additional mo pa magbigay ng bakuna, hanggang doon na lang talaga. So, that means na kahit mag-overdose ka ng vaccine, hanggang doon na yung protection mo. So, giving additional vaccines na hindi mo matandaan before will not really cause significant bad effects or side effects to your child. So, pwede po.
Thank you, Doc Mark. Another question about COVID vaccine, particularly the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. Tinatanong dito, where can I bring my child? Where can I find this vaccine for my daughter and myself? I think mahirap pa talaga ngayon yan.
So Doc Jamie, tinatanong ko yung Pfizer.
Yes.
Ngayon po kasi the vaccination ko, the COVID-19 vaccination ko is under the emergency use authorization. So, wala pong private company ang pwedeng mag-roll out muna sa ngayon ng mga bakunang ito kasi the only body that is allowed to roll out these vaccines is the government. Okay? Now, there will come a time po, so let's just be patient. There will come a time that these vaccines will be approved for commercial use. Yun po yung tinatawag natin na pwede na yung mga companies. So as of now po, I cannot answer you definitely kung kailan po tayo magkakaroon ng rollout sa ibang tao kasi inuuna po muna ngayon yung mga high risk o yung ating mga frontliners or those persons na who are constantly exposed to COVID-19 cases.
Alright. Dito naman, may another question. Where can I bring my child for vaccination, especially during this pandemic? Takot ang mga taong lumabas no? Will it be safe to bring him to the hospital?
So, the answer to that question po is that where can you, when you vaccinate? So, we have QualiMed, no? So, kung malapit kayo sa QualiMed, you can always bring your children to QualiMed o kung saan man pong hospital na you are near. Ngayon, yung notion kasi ng mga parents ngayon, hospital, nakakatakot pumunta. So, hindi naman po yung buong hospital ay may COVID. So, there are only specified locations or areas in the hospital wherein we see and we cater for COVID-19 suspects. There are also areas in the hospital where the rate of COVID transmission is very, very low kasi lahat po ng hospitals ngayon, meron pong infection control measures. And as long as we follow these infection control measures, we keep our mask palagi, may face shield, physical distancing, washing ng hands. So if we do this, and then we follow the hospital protocols and infection control measures, so I can assure you na hindi po makakakuha ng COVID ang anak ninyo sa hospital. So, better than keeping your child not vaccinated, go to your hospital. Siguro pag natapos na yung ECQ, no? Kasi ngayon ECQ tayo. So, go to your hospital, go to your pediatrician, o kung wala pang pediatrician, maghanap po ng pediatrician, and then ask advice on the vaccination of your child.
Okay, thank you, Doc Mark. Here is an interesting question. My child received Hep B, and then he was tested for antibodies as a young adult. Since she is a nursing student and her antibody is negative, repeat the Hep B vaccination, and when should a titer be done?
Sorry, Doc. Medyo sorry. Can you please repeat that?
So, my child received Hep B. Then she was tested for antibodies as a young adult since she is a nursing student. Her antibody is negative. I think the question, should there be a repeat of Hep B vaccination? And when should a titer be done?
Okay. So actually po yung case po nung anak po ninyo na nag-titer ng Hep B mababa. So through time kasi since yung Hep B natin 'no, hindi kasi siya live vaccine. So ibig sabihin inactivated siya. And yung Hep B natin, common sequelae for that would be through time bumababa yung yung titer, yung protective value natin. So it doesn't mean na kung nabakunahan ka na ng Hep B before, tuloy-tuloy na siya hanggang pagtanda mo na same titer kasi pwede talaga siyang bumaba. Depende sa body composition ng each individual. Ngayon, the best way to address that is to give another series ng Hep B vaccine. Kasi may options ka eh. Yung isang option is to give another series of Hep B vaccines. Yung isang option naman is to give one dose of the vaccine and then you repeat the the titer po after several months. Usually, it will be 6 to 9 months, no? So, pero sa akin, when I see patients like that, I usually give another course of the Hep B vaccine. So, 2 months, 6 months, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, or earlier. So, or 1 month, second month, 3 months. Kasi dapat may interval din siya. So, you need to go to your pediatrician. Ngayon, yung pediatrician ninyo can refer you to a infectious doctor because medyo complicated kasi yung ganyang scenario. So, to give you a better advice, go to your infectious doctor, to your pediatrician, so that ma-discuss ninyo kung anong gagawin. But we have those kinds of persons po na negative yung titer nila despite that Hep B. Ngayon, kapag nabigyan mo na siya ng another set ng Hep B, tapos tinest mo siya after 1 to 2 months, no? Tapos negative pa rin siya. Ang tawag na natin sa'yo would be non-responder. Ibig sabihin noon, kahit na damihan ang pagbibigay sa'yo ng Hep B vaccine, you will not eventually respond to that. And the best course of action is mag-ingat na lang sa mga sharps.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mark. So I think this is the last question, our last question for tonight. So yung mga iba pang may questions dyan, you can just go to your pediatrician and ask your pediatrician. So ask ko lang po yung regarding sa Dengvaxia last 2013 na nabigyan ang anak ko when she was in grade school. May expiration po ba iyon?
Okay, sige po. So that's also an interesting question. So, if we are given a vaccine, meron ng protection na binibigay. But the protection is not maximized until we receive the full course of the vaccine. So, kung nabigyan po kasi ang vaccine natin 3 doses siya. So, kung nabigyan siya ng 1 dose, may protection na siya. Kung nabigyan siya ng 2 dose, mas mataas yung protection niya sa unang dose. Ngayon, yung expiration, wala kasi siyang expiration. So, going back to the principle na you can give the vaccines at a later time, even beyond yung sa recommended, madadagdagan lang yung protection mo. So, you don't need to repeat the whole process. Like for me, for example, nabigyan din po ako ng vaccine. So, actually, personally, it's a good vaccine because it can prevent dengue. So, pero yun nga, siguro along the way, there has been some confusions, conflicts, and political issues. So, ayaw ko na i-touch yun. Pero, as an IBS expert po, the dengue vaccine is a good vaccine. And I recommend na sana maibalik siya dito sa atin sa
Yes, I agree, Dr. Mark. So, Dr. Mark, any final summary or words para sa ating mga parents for tonight?
Okay po. So, parang in summary, so sa lahat ng mga diniscuss ko, ng mga cases, ng mga studies, so isa lang ang gusto kong i-impart sa inyo, sa parents, na have your child vaccinated because vaccination will really protect your child. So, go to your pediatrician, go to your nearest hospital, and have your child vaccinated. If you are unsure, ask your pediatrician para ma-maximize natin yung protection ng bawat isa because vaccination is an investment.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Mark. Well, maraming salamat po. Sa ating lecture ngayon, marami tayong natutunan.
Thank you po, Dr. Amy.
So, All right, to give our certificate of appreciation, we'd like to give thanks to Dr. Mark Joseph Castellano for participating as speaker for the topic on A Little Pain for a Lot of Gain, a parent's guide to basic vaccination of their children, given on the 30th day of March 2020 at QualiMed Hospital, Santa Rosa, Valley North, Santo Domingo, Santa Rosa, Laguna, signed by um, Attorney Nirmala Barbara S. Bangarja and Dr. Lilibet M. Maravilla. Thank you, Dr. Mark.
Thank you po for inviting me here, and I hope madami pong natutunan ang ating mga viewers and ang ating mga parents.
Yan. And just a short announcement. We would like to invite you to our series of webinars. Para sa next online webinar po natin will be on April 27 by Dr. Grace Malayan, our pediatric pulmonologist in QualiMed Santa Rosa. So the title would be, it's about flu shots, okay? Ubosipon lagnat, trangkaso o COVID na ba ito? So I hope you can all join us again next month on our webinar. So now we'd like to welcome our Hospital Director, Dr. Lilibet Maravilla, to give our closing remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Maraming salamat sa Department of naririnig niyo po ako?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Maraming
Doc.
salamat sa Department of Pediatric. Laging napaka-active sa mga ganito advocacy po para sa mga pasyente. So, itong department na to ang department sa QualiMed kung saan talaga nagtatrabaho lahat ng members para magbigay ng information sa mga pasyente, sa mga communities around QualiMed Santa Rosa. So, katulad ngayon, panahon ng pandemic, hindi natin kailangang makalimutan na protektahan yung mga anak natin, especially ngayon na hindi pa included karamihan sa mga anak natin sa criteria para makareceive ng COVID vaccine. So maraming salamat sa pag-attend and aasahan namin ang pag-attend ninyo sa mga susunod pang mga series of lectures, webinars na inihanda ng Department of Pediatrics. Gusto rin namin sabihin sa inyo na bukas ang aming outpatient clinic. Meron din pong nagkiklinik ng face-to-face, katulad ng sinabi ni Doc Mark. Kahit po mayroong mga pasyente tayong may COVID na nasa hospital, sinigurado naman po ng hospital na safe at nakahiwalay itong mga pasyente na to at sinusunod natin ng infection protocol para sa ganoon ay maging safe doon po sa outpatient clinic natin at kahit po doon sa clean ward kung kailangan natin ng services at as inpatient. So maraming salamat sa lahat-lahat. Maraming salamat in behalf of QualiMed Santa Rosa, kay Dr. Reese, kay Dr. Amy Galang, Dr. Mark, at sa lahat ng mga pediatricians ng QualiMed Santa Rosa. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Maravilla. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We hope to see you again next month. God bless and stay safe.